Hey, what's up, everyone? Tedrick85 here, and today I'm going to be talking about Chapter 2 of Book 1 of The Legend of Korra, titled A Leaf in the Wind. Which, I just saw it right now. I didn't introduce my last vlog entry like that, so to be able to introduce it like that is pretty cool, and it brings back memories of when I did Books 3 and 4, and which I don't know why I'm talking about this, but anyway, I'm really excited to continue this, and, we found out right off the bat that even though Korra is getting to learn airbending with Tenzin, that it's not going to be a walk in the park like I think that she thought it was going to be, because Tenzin's really determined to make sure that she learns airbending, but with Korra's personality being the way it is, you can tell, at least here, that the two of them are going to clash just a little bit, because Korra just wants to learn airbending just like that, and whereas Tenzin is urging patience in that. And one of the ways that he urges patience is this, with an exercise where Janora demonstrates, where there's a bunch of spinning boards in that, and they have to move through it without getting hit by them or anything like that. And Tenzin urges Korra to move like the leaf, hence the title of this chapter and that. But as expected, Korra ends up not being able to get through it, and she gets banged up pretty bad. And here she ends up getting frustrated in that, and here we get to see her meditating with Tenzin's kids and that, and she's getting frustrated about that too. And she's like, "Well, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right." And Tenzin's like, "Well, there's nothing to do. Just let your mind open and that, and let your body not go free," which Cora ends up scoffing at him, and she's like, "Yeah, you end up you're saying to be free and that, but you won't even let me listen to the radio." Which I should have said before that right off the bat, we get to see while Tenzin's talking to her, she's reading a newspaper article about the Fire Ferrets pro bending team, and she's really interested in pro bending in that, and and she was wondering when she could go watch a match, and Tenzin ends up telling her, you're not here to watch pro bending matches, you're here to learn airbending. So she's kind of frustrated about that, and she even tries listening to radio, which Tenzin doesn't want her listening to radio either, and that's why that prompted her to say that about the freedom and that. But like she did in the last chapter, she ends up escaping to the pro bending arena, which ironically is right across from Air Temple Island. As a matter of fact, you can literally see the pro bending arena from Air Temple Island, so she ends up going towards it. And she ends up getting caught by this janitor type guy, which here she ends up trying to come up with a way to get out of it, get herself out of that mess, saying that she had to use the bathroom. But here we end up getting our first look at Bolin, which of course is the earthbending brother, and he ends up telling I forget what his name is offhand, but he ends up telling the old guy that Korra's with him and that, so he was able to take her to where him and his brother Mako gonna be before the match starts, because when she went to a pro bending arena, it was right before the Fire Ferrets' next match. So speaking of which, we get to see Mako for the first time too, and of course you get to see the opposite personalities between him and Bolin. Almost like a stereotypical type opposites between brothers, whereas Bolin is the carefree, nice one. Mako is kind of like the internal, like, not to say antisocial, but he's kind of like the abrasive one, he's kind of treated Korra kind of coldly in that, which Korra really didn't respond to that well. But here she was there just to see a pro betting match and that, which the Fire Ferrets were able to barely win it. And here she tries complimenting Mako, and here he ends up saying like, "Oh, you're still here," and she's like, "Oh, you're still a joke." But yeah, we get to see how the three of them end up becoming one unit in that, which they end up becoming more of a unit because here what ended up happening was the firebending member of the Fire Ferrets named Hirsuk ends up quitting the team, and Korra ends up volunteering to fill in for that spot, which unbeknownst to her, Tenzin ends up finding out while listening to the radio when the White Lotus people were listening to the radio too, which, needless to say, Tenzin wasn't too thrilled about that, especially after he told her not only to not go to one, but listen to one. So, needless to say, he wasn't too happy about that, especially since before that she destroyed the thing that he was trying to teach her to go through and that. And he was like, "That's a 2,000-year-old artifact. What is wrong with you?" And here they came to a head in that, and that's what prompted her to go. And here, what ended up happening was that Korra ends up winning the match for the Fire Ferrets due to her ability to dodge all the attacks from the I believe there's something Armadillo team, whatever. Anyway, it's the other team that they were playing against. She's able to evade all of them, and here she ends up getting the hat trick and end up winning the match. Which even at that point, Mako started to realize, hey, maybe I was being a jerk to her, and he actually told her that she did a nice job in that, and she came across as being a natural in that, just like Bolin had told her in that episode. So even during the match and that, when she got knocked over in the first round, she confronted Tenzin, saying that, hey, this is what I need to do in order to learn airbending. And Tenzin ends up schooling her, saying, you know what, there's more to being an airbender to fighting. When will you learn that? Korra didn't want to listen to that, so that's how she was able to finish that and finish the match. But yeah, the Tenzin ends up realizing that it was because of the pro betting and that it ended up being a nice teaching tool to help Korra move like an airbending more, and you could tell that he was definitely proud of her. I don't think he was still thrilled about her being a pro bender, but at the same time, though, at least he has something to work with now to teach her airbending and that. So you can tell where they got kind of patched things up at the end and that, and Korra told her that she'll be ready for airbending practice first thing in the morning and that, and she also let out that she's going to be with the Fire Ferrets for the rest of the season and that, which you could tell by the facial expression and Tenzin made. He's like, oh god. but but yeah, this was a very I could definitely see why Nickelodeon premiered this for the first episode because it complements it so well. It's hard to talk about the first one without talking about this one too. It says it's a nice introduction to most of the characters on here. I mean, we got to see Amon, we got to see what kind of personality and person Korra is, we got to see what kind of character Tenzin is, and we also got to meet Mako and Bolin. And so, and it's weird looking back at this because I remember the first time I watched this episode. I'm gonna love what you do right now. I'm not trying to get into any kind of shipping war or anything, but I'm gonna tell you guys right now. I was never a Makora shipper, and I think it was this episode right here. It was like, oh god, here we get the female protagonist, and we get to see the main male character, and that being almost like the opposite type personality, not that where they don't get along at first. I'm like, oh geez, it's gonna be another one of these things. So I think it was for that reason why I never got on board with Makora to begin with. I'm gonna be honest. I was really rooting throughout this book that it was gonna that Korra would somehow end up being with Bolin, which naturally by the third book that I realized that that wasn't gonna happen, especially with him ending up being with Opal and that. But yeah, nothing against Mako and that. He is a good character, and he certainly proved himself in book 4. But I just didn't like just how stereotypical he was in that, and how it just didn't rub me the right way in that, and I don't think it's really anything that he did. Well, he was being kind of mean towards Korra and that, but I think it's because of how, I hate being redundant, but he's just a stereotype of the strong main male character in that, and I had to back of my mind, what you watch, he's gonna end up being with Korra and that, so I kind of rooted against that to begin with, and I was never really into Makora and that, so of course everybody knows by now Makora ended up not being Endgame, but anyways, I figured I'd say that just to get that off my chest and that, and And speaking of personalities and that, going back to Korra and that, see, and I think with her relationship with Tenzin, I think is wonderful because not only do you get that teacher-student relationship, but you can also sense where Tenzin's trying to be like a father type figure to her too. Other than her own father, Tarnak, that is. But you can definitely tell that he cares about her and wants what's best for her, but just getting where they're able to work together is gonna be the key in that. And it is frustrating for both Korra and Tenzin, and I think that's one of the things that I liked about this book in general because you get to see how much their relationship has evolved since then. And even in book two, as I'll talk about whenever I do that vlog, that there's still a bit of tension between Korra and Tenzin, by book three and that, you can definitely tell where they're definitely amicable in that, and really the teacher and student and father-daughter thing that they were supposed to be, and what they were going for here. So yeah, it took them out of time and that, but yeah, overall, I was very pleased with it. As a matter of fact, this whole series premiere, I liked it whenever I first watched it, and I liked it now since I rewatched it and that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this one, and I know the next chapter will go along more talking about how Korra is getting along with Bolin and Mako and that, and how Tendon is continuing his teachings through airbending to her and that. So it's gonna be really exciting to do that, and I can't wait to get that entry out as soon as I can. And but yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. So thank you for listening to this, and I will see you again next time.